Hello, everyone. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. Welcome to the African Podcast TV. This podcast is about Africa regarding the political side, the historical side, the cultural side, so many more. Each week, I deliver my best thought and analysis regarding Africa. Here are my guests. It's my pleasure to present to you Honorable Queen Aminata. She is a business consultant and economic development on the African continent and even a human rights consultant. Thank you so much for joining me this weekend on African Podcast TV.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, can you tell us more about yourself and how do you see the African economy right now, especially after the COVID-19 and then the pandemic is still going on? So, what is your knowledge about that?
Thank you. Well, a little bit about me. My name is Queen Aminata. I am Queen in the Imbo Kingdom and Queen in the Fulani Kingdom. I'm in charge of economic development in the Ashanti region of Ghana. So my job is to bring in development into the communities in areas of need as far as business, education, women's empowerment, anything that's going to benefit the community. As you know, the communities on the continent of Africa, some of them are extremely impoverished and they need a lot of development as far as all across the spectrum, right? They need jobs, they need education, they need infrastructure. There's a lot of things that our continent needs. And so my job is to search these things out and try to make the connections on the continent to better the continent as a whole. But I am based out of Ghana, but I do serve the entire continent of Africa. So in all countries.
Perfect. As someone who has been serving all the continent in Africa, so what is your view and how do you see the African economy is going right now?
So from what I see, so the African economy right now is a little struggling. The last statistics that I checked said that due to the COVID pandemic, we had like a steady incline in the economic development on the continent. And then when COVID hit, everything came to a screeching halt and it had a sharp decline. The reason for that is, the continent of Africa, the tourism industry brings in a lot of money, right? So people with the pandemic, everything was shut down. People weren't traveling there. So that affected the tourism economy. So things went down. Import and exports, because the ports were closed down. So Africa is not able to export its goods. So that causes us income deficiency as well. So there's a lot of areas on the continent that are suffering because of the pandemic. But as things start to lighten up, things will be getting better. I do think that for Africa to really improve, what needs to happen is Africa as a whole, I'm not speaking of any specific country, but as a whole, Africa needs to focus on doing more exporting of its own goods instead of importing things that they can grow at home. Right? They need to focus on trading with other countries that are in their specific vicinity as far as commodities go, instead of importing these commodities from foreign countries. I think that way it's a win-win for both countries that are involved in it. And that's the way Africa is going to recuperate out of this recession that it's currently in. We need to learn how to do business with our own people first and look at home first, meaning what can we do as a home in our own country to bring in revenue? And that would be to export our own goods, grow our own food, and export that food to other countries rather than importing things like rice or chicken when we can grow those things at home. That's my opinion on that kind of stuff.
That's a really interesting opinion you have been talking about right now. Most of the people think the same thing, but just some people don't have the capacity or the possibility to put that system in place. So in your knowledge, as someone like I said before, have knowledge about, especially in the African continent. So how can we do that to help those people who have knowledge about that, how the African government in general, because we're not talking about specific country, the African in general. So how they're going to do that to help some people or some industry or some companies like you to put a new system in place to help Africa import or export their goods?
So I think the answer to that question lies in what we consider the people of Africa, right? Because the people of Africa don't just live on the continent. Africa has a huge diaspora population that has the solutions to Africa's problems. And I think if we unite with the diaspora and we start doing business with the diaspora and let the diaspora come in and help us with our infrastructure and things like that, it'll go a long way. We don't have to tap into European sources to get our money. because we have the solution within our own people, but we have to expand what our knowledge is about who our people are. So I think a lot of the solutions to what's going on the continent of Africa can be solved with Africa's diaspora, if the diaspora would be willing to unite themselves and come in. Because what's going on in the diaspora, we have a lot of small companies in the diaspora that are able to do things on a smaller scale, but they're not able to get the big contracts, like the big contracts, because they're smaller companies. But what we're trying to do over here in the diaspora is unite those companies. So have those companies come together to form a huge conglomerate to get those big contracts, to go over to the continent, educate our people on the continent on how to do these industries and businesses for themselves, and so that we uplift the people on the continent. Because at the end of the day, we're all one people. Right? We're all Africans, whether we live on the continent, whether we live in Europe, in the Caribbean, in the Americas, it doesn't matter. We're all African people. And it's going to take all of us coming together, working together as one people to get us out of this situation. Because the truth of the matter is, our people are suffering globally. No matter where they're at, we're oppressed, and all kinds of things are going on with us. We need to unite. And so I think if Africa, the people on the continent and the people in the diaspora, we need to expand our knowledge and understand who we are, and that we're one people, and we start working together, and that will solve a lot of our problems.
Good. So you said, like you said before, the African economy was growing up before the pandemic hit the economy. So in your knowledge, what do you think the African government should put in place, should change the system? So in case if another pandemic comes, how are we going to improve our economy, and then how are we going to help our economy grow? Because after the pandemic, we have been seeing the IMF and some countries in Europe or America have been helping the African economy to grow. So what is your knowledge about that? So do you think we should change this strategy for the next time?
So I think what needs to happen is, so our officials in the African government, they're a little concerning to me. And the reason I say that is because there's corruption all over the world, right? So I think what needs to happen is we need to learn from this situation, and we need to learn to not be so dependent on outside sources for our survival. So if our leaders on the continent would come together and figure out how we can, like I said before, depend on ourselves to generate income to sustain ourselves, then when pandemics hit, we won't be dependent so much on outside tourism and outside investments and outside imports and things like this to sustain us, because we will be operating within a system that's self-sustaining. And that's what needs to happen. It needs to be a self-sustaining system. So our leaders need to put things in place to where, like I said, we're trading within each other on the continent. We're importing things from other countries on the continent so that the continent is able to sustain itself and not be dependent on what's going on outside of the continent. Because if you're depending on things outside of the continent for your economy, then when things happen and things outside of the continent shut down, now your economy is suffering. Right? We have to be self-sustaining. And the only way for that to happen is for us to open up the borders on the continent so that we don't have to, if we need to ship something from South Africa to West Africa, we don't have to go through all these different things to make it happen. It's a straight shot.
Good.
If
so
that makes sense.
Good. But do you think that the trade will help the African economy grow, and how?
Of course, the trade is going to help the African economy grow if we're trading amongst ourselves, because that way you're feeding, each country is feeding itself, and we're supporting each other through trade with the different countries. So you can trade with countries that are around you. You can trade with countries that are not necessarily next to you. So for instance, and I don't know if this is the case, I'm just using this as an example. Say like Senegal needs some rice, and South Africa is good at growing rice. Well, Senegal can purchase their rice from South Africa instead of China. So now that boosts the South African economy, right? And then say like South Africa has, I don't know, corn, and Senegal needs corn. So now Senegal buys their corn from South Africa. That's stimulating them, and then they get the corn from South Africa instead of the United States. So this is how this system should be working. We should be using the countries on the continent to trade with each other and stimulate each other's economy. And that's why it's circular. It's called a circular economy. Those things will be circulating throughout the continent, importing and exporting with each other. And that way the economy will grow from within and not from without.
Perfect. So why Africa is becoming a bigger player in the global economy? And do you think it's benefiting Africa? If you look at nowadays, the most of the countries in like I said, like Europe, America, China, especially China, everybody is running to go to Africa to invest in Africa. Like I said, like in telecommunication, in the industry, they're investing in Africa. So in your knowledge, do you think it's benefiting Africa?
Well, I think in the short term it benefits Africa because Africa gets the resources that they're bringing. But my personal opinion is that in the long term, that's not beneficial to Africa because Africa is slowly not being owned by Africans.
So
It's
how?
being purchased by these outside entities.
Mhm. Good. So how that's gonna benefit Africa in the long term? Do you think we have to change our system, how we interact?
This is what I think. I think that Africa as a whole needs to, and I'm going to keep saying this, we need to start focusing within and start doing business with our own people first. And like I said, these other countries are coming in, China, India, United States, France, these other countries, England, they're coming in with big money, right? They're coming in with big money. They have the money to invest and the continent needs what they have. So I understand why the leaders are going for it because these are things that the people need. But on the flip side of that, like I said, there are companies in the diaspora who can meet the need also, but they don't have necessarily the big money capital in and of themselves to get those contracts. So what needs to happen is we need to be getting the information out to the diaspora so that they can form these conglomerates and come in with the big money and help our own people. That's what needs to happen. Because at the end of the day, my personal opinion is that when we're depending on these foreign nations to come in and support us, you're kind of like on the hook to perform for them, if that makes sense. It's hard to bite the hand that feeds you. Let's put it that way. Everybody understands that phrase. So when we're taking all this money and getting all these things, that stuff is not for free. And we need to understand that it comes with a hefty price tag. And oftentimes the people end up suffering when it comes time to pay that price tag.
I definitely understand your point, but you have been talking about the diaspora a lot. So, but you know that some diaspora they've been trying to do something in Africa, but some of them they're not even trying to do something in Africa. They're not even been to Africa. They're just talking about Africa. And if you see those countries like France, like the United States of America, they're going there to invest in Africa, is because of the interest the festival, and then the second level because the diaspora haven't been done a lot. So what do you think about that? Do you think that the diaspora should engage more now, seeing that China and the United States of America, France, Germany, UK, they have been running to go to Africa because they're seeing that Africa is growing, Africa, especially the economy. So what do you think about that?
Well, of course, I think the diaspora needs to get more involved. The problem with a lot of people in the diaspora is they don't know, right? They don't know what's all going on the continent. They don't know that there's even opportunities for business on the continent because what we're told by the media propaganda is just the opposite. So if you don't know, then you don't know. So that's why I'm saying we have to do our part to get the information out and let people know that there's these opportunities over there and you have the ability to meet the need for the people and it can be a win-win for our people all over the world. But we have to get the information out because if people don't know that there's opportunities on the continent for them to not only help the people, but to make some money at the same time to support their families wherever they live, then they're not going to bring their resources there because they don't know that the opportunity exists.
Good. So let's talk about again a little bit the trade and agriculture, because the most of the time the African economy is based on petroleum and mining. For example, Nigeria is based on petroleum, and then in Guinea, where I'm from, is based on mining. So why not trade or agriculture?
I do believe that, and I think there are groups on the continent that are trying to do that. The thing with the agriculture though is so the world is moving at a fast pace. So outside of the continent, agriculture works differently than what it does on the continent because outside of the continent there's equipment, everything is I don't know the right word. Machines do it, right? But
Yes.
on the continent, it's human labor. So it's a little different because to bring in that machinery and stuff costs a lot of money and the continent doesn't have the money. So we need to find a way to bridge the two gaps. I know there's an initiative going on right now with our tribe in Ghana, who's trying to bring in some agriculture and dairy farming initiatives there to get Ghana up to par with the rest of the world so that they can compete on an international scale in those markets. But it's a little difficult because, as usual, funding is the issue. So I think a lot of that is going to come down to Africa being open to a new way of doing business and getting up to scale so that we can compete on an international level and meet the needs of the people globally in these different markets.
How Africa can open to a new business in your knowledge?
So I think how it can open up to new businesses, it just needs to, so what I do is I put out calls for proposals. So I work with a lot of people who have ready to go made projects that they want to implement on the continent. And then we introduce it to the continent. Sometimes it's met with enthusiasm and people want to do it. Sometimes it's met with, well, we kind of don't understand the technology behind it. So I think what needs to happen is Africa in general, this is a general statement, needs to understand that the world is moving quickly. Innovation is happening quickly. They come out with new things all the time, new innovative ways to do things that are quicker, more efficient, cost less money once you make the initial investment. And that's what the continent needs to understand. That's been my experience. When we take these projects to different government officials, the first thing they say is that's a hefty price tag. And they think that way because they're looking in the short term and they're not looking at long term, right? So if the project costs, just to keep the number simple, $100 right now, and you're saying, wow, $100, but in the long run, you're going to make 50 million if you invest the initial $100. That's how the continent needs to be thinking, but they don't think that way. Oftentimes they think, oh my gosh, they look at this price tag because they're thinking now, but you need to be thinking projections in the future. How are we going to feed all of these people in the future if we're still doing things manually the way we're doing them now? It's not going to happen. We have to bring in innovation. We have to bring in things that are going to be able to produce at a higher level.
Talking about
and the good thing is the continent of Africa has a young population. So we have people that are going to be growing up into these things, right? And able to do the work, but we have to educate the people and get the people the knowledge so that when they get to the age where they can work and produce, they're able to do so.
About the young people and talking about how we're going to feed our people, especially according to the UN Millennium Development Goals, poverty increased more than 40% in Africa, and then 60% of population of Africa, they are young. So in your knowledge, how Africa can achieve inclusive growth, and do you think that is important for the continent?
I think it's most definitely important for the continent, and I think we need to be focused more on the youth. That's why I'm really big on education. And my personal concern as far as feeding the world, we talk a lot about the food shortage, but for me personally, I'm concerned about the water, because you can't grow food if you don't have water. And there's a water problem on the planet right now. So we need to find innovative ways to grow our food that uses less water. Otherwise, we're going to have a big problem down the road. People aren't going to be able to eat, because you can farm as much as you want to. You can plant as many seeds as you want to. If you don't have any water to put on them, the food's not going to grow.
Good. So talking about that, can you tell us a little bit about your project helping the girl get education, especially in Africa, but especially in Ghana and in some countries in Africa? Can you tell us more about that, please?
Yes. So right now I'm running a campaign. We're calling it the Save the World campaign. And what we're doing is we're trying to fight period poverty. This is part of the United Nations SDGs. And it's also a basic human right, because what's happening on the continent, not just on the continent, but everywhere, but I'm focusing on the continent, is that our young girls are not able to go to school every month when they're on their cycle because they don't have access to sanitary products, right? And so what we did was we partnered with a company called Could You, and we are running a campaign to provide sanitary cups to girls. And these cups are really good because it's one $10 donation will support one girl for a total of 10 years. It that $10 donation also comes with education, because we go into the actual community that we're serving. We provide education to the girls on the importance of hygiene and how to keep yourself clean and how to use the cup. we provide education to the young boys on what menstruation is and that this is a natural body function, which is going to help with the bullying that goes on to the girls because the boys don't understand what's happening. You also supply a job to a local community person because we're going to employ them to make the pouches that the girls carry these things in. And it helps the environment because we all know Africa has a trash problem. There's trash all over the place. And so these will help the environment because one cup will last for 10 years. You don't have sanitary napkins going into the trash every month. You don't have tampons going into the water system every month. So it's good for the environment as well. So that's what we're doing. We are doing it one step at a time. Each $10 donation supports one girl for 10 years. It helps the environment. It provides education and it provides somebody with a job. That's one of the major initiatives that we're pushing right now.
Good. Are you getting help from the government? I'm talking about the Ghanaian government, or in general, are you getting help from the from the big organization, like some organization in Africa? Are you getting help from them?
No, this is all privately. This is all privately done. We're doing this all privately without government involvement. We would like the government to help, but right now we're doing this all privately.
So what is the message you have right now to talk to if you have someone in front of you who work for the government or the president? What is your message for right now to about your project, especially talking about a girl, for helping the girl get education?
Well, I would like for the government to support it and to make way for us to get this into every school on the continent, to get these products to every girl on the continent so that all of our girls can go to school, because as you know, it's a basic human right. Everyone is entitled to an education, and our girls are being denied that right now simply because they're female. And the reason for that is because they have this natural thing that happens to their body every single month, and they're not able to get the products that they need to attend school, so they have to stay home, which translates into they're not going to graduate, which translates into they're not going to be employable, which translates into if they have a family, they're not going to be able to support and feed them. It's a domino effect. So we need to stop it early, which means we need to get these girls the resources that they need. And if the government would back this and help us, that would go a long way in improving the long-term economic value of every single country, because now you have a new workforce coming in that can stimulate the economy.
So if someone is watching this emission right now and then he would like to contact you, how he gonna contact you? How is he going to contact you?
They can go to my website, which is www.themagagia.com, which is MAGIJAYA.com. There's a link on there. You can donate there. You can contact me on LinkedIn at Queen Aminata. You can contact my Facebook page, any of the social medias, Instagram. You can message me. Someone from my team will be back in contact with you. If you want to partner with us, we're open to that as well. We want to do as much as we possibly can to help our young girls on the continent. So any support anybody can give us, we're more than appreciative to get it. If you can connect us with other companies that want to partner with us, if you have connections in different governments, we're open to everything.
Good. So ask you a question regarding economy again. So how do you see the African economy in the future?
You know, I think Africa is poised to be the economic leader in the world. We have all the resources that the world needs on the continent. That's why everybody's in a scramble to get over there. I just think we need to put some things in place right now so that it's a steady increase. And like I said, the way that's going to happen is we need to start doing trade with our own people. We need to start growing our products at home instead of importing things that we can grow at home. Because when we're growing it at home, we're not only growing the food to sell to somebody else, we're growing the food to feed our own people. And we're employing our people in the agricultural industry, which all stimulates the economy. Because when people are employed, they spend money at the local businesses, right? So this just helps the economy all the way around. We need to start doing business with ourselves, importing less and exporting more, and growing things at home that can be grown at home. That's what we need to do. We need to unite with our diaspora and get them involved, because we're all one people, and start circulating the money within ourselves. That's what we need to do.
Thank you so much for joining me this weekend on African Podcast TV.
Thank you.
Thank you.